But for me, it's not an issue of navigation.
Okay.
It's my individual character. It's who I am.
Got it.
I was born in the Bronx, raised in Hollis, Queens, New York City. I'm from the streets. And so there's a certain code that you live by. And it's not just in the streets. It's in a lot of other places as well. But I know where I come from. And you try to look out to the best of your ability. You ain't trying to have Thanksgiving dinner with anybody or exchange Christmas gifts, but you're a man and you trying to be fair. Like let's say, for example, hypothetically, not to say that this ever happened with anybody, because even if it did, I would never tell. But let's just say, for example, I saw a cat and he was cheating on his woman, or she was cheating on her man, or whatever, and I covered them. Man, I ain't got nothing to say. Ain't none of my damn business. Mm-hmm. You understand? Now, some people be like, this is a decent thing to do, and you're a professional, and but way to go. No, that's a code. You don't do that.
Hollis, Queens,
you don't do that.
Number one rule there is mind your own business.
You mind your damn business. That's their problem.
Number one cause of death in our neighborhood.
Now, if it were my daughter that was being betrayed,
different program.
If it was my sister that was being betrayed, or somebody that I loved and was close, that's different. Mm-hmm. You understand? That's different. But you don't do that for the purposes of a job. Mm-hmm. You don't do something like that. You mind your damn business, and that's just you just understand.
So let me help you understand what just transpired here. And again, this is why I have a problem with Stephen A. Smith. I have a problem with ESPN installing him at the top of the food chain. He baits people into idiocy. Chris Carter, you could hear his voice, seconding Stephen A. Smith. You from Hollis, Queens, and blah, blah. And so Chris Carter is clapping his hands and celebrating what Stephen A. Smith is saying. And Chris Carter is actually smarter than this. But he's following Stephen A. Smith down the path of idiocy. Because here's the factual truth. The way Stephen A. Smith unpacks that story, he's pretending as if journalists without his ethics, his street knowledge, that they're running around, to keep it, other sports journalists, that they're running around going, oh man, look at this athlete. And I'm just throwing this name out there. It has no significance. It's just a name that pops into my head. Let's say Russell Westbrook. And I promise you, I'm not using his name with any intention to disparage Russell Westbrook. But Stephen A. Smith is pretending like there are sports writers going, oh man, Russell Westbrook, he's cheating on his wife. I'm going to write a story about that. Or I'm going to call his wife and tell him. Or I'm going to call someone in the organization and squeal on him about that. That's never happened. In the 30 years that I've been a sports journalist, sports writers aren't up in a female athlete's personal life business, who they're sleeping with, if they're cheating. It just never happened. And so Stephen A. is unpacking this story as if like, I'm superior. I stick to a code. I'm superior to these other journalists that would snitch on these guys. People's expectations for celebrities and athletes are so low. The news story would actually be, man, let me write a news story. I met an athlete who actually is loyal to their spouse. That would be the news story. That would be interesting. But no one's interested because no one cares and no one has expectations of the athletes, coaches, executives that we cover to be loyal to their spouses. People mind their own business because they have their own business. So it's a whole false conversation. And for Chris Carter to get caught up in Stephen A.'s posturing, I stick to a ghetto code. I'm from the streets of Hollis, Queens. There's a code I stick to. You athletes, you can trust me as opposed to these other journalists. That's a joke. It's not even in the realm of possibility. And so these are the types of false conversations that he promotes and other people, Chris Carter, who, trust me, he knows better. But because ESPN has paid Stephen A. Smith 12, 13, and potentially going to pay him $25 million a year, Chris Carter gets caught up in his head. Let me be a buffoon and a jackass just like Stephen A. Smith and pretend like this is the reality, because this is how you get paid. This is what the system promotes, particularly for black media members. You're a minstrel show. You're a buffoon. Play one for me. Go out and do this jig and this dance. And so Stephen A. Smith is playing the ghetto tough guy, and it's all phony because he's not a ghetto tough guy. He was a borderline retard in Hollis, Queens that everybody laughed at and thought, no way this guy will ever go to college. He's not smart enough. He got held back in 4th grade. He's a complete lie and a phony. I hit 17 straight shots and Big House Gaines gave me a scholarship on the spot. Everybody knows little goofballs like Stephen A. Smith who are pathological liars. And he sits around with Hall of Fame football player Chris Carter, Hall of Fame football player Shannon Sharp, real dudes of real accomplishments athletically, and they play the game with him, and they follow him into a conversation of idiocy. And trust me, they know exactly who Stephen A. Smith is because every high school and junior high school had a guy like Stephen A. Smith, a wannabe jock who wasn't good enough and who spent the rest of his life lying about his high school career. Stephen A. Smith never played in high school. He had a cup of coffee in high school basketball. According to his own book, he was booted off the team after like a month. Never played. Got cut the year before. Told some farcical story about how he made his high school basketball team. He's gotten away with that lie. And so then he comes up with a lie about how he made his college basketball team. An outdoor tryout in the middle of winter in New York. And then the next weekend driving up to Winston-Salem State and trying out for Big House Games on a Sunday after they had played a Saturday game in the middle of their college basketball season. And people have bought it. And all of these athletes have to sit there and be phony and not call Stephen A. Smith out on this. We know guys like Stephen A. Smith. We used to flick him in the back of the ear and say, shut the hell up, little boy. But they've given him the bag. These guys all want the bag. And so they pretend like he knows better than them, or he knows as well as them, or that he's as real as them. He's not. So The Real is going to move our show into the morning. We'll be on YouTube like everyone else, and it'll be available there, an alternative for you to hear real sports discussions, real conversations about anything going on in the world from an authentic place. Again, anybody that's watched my show previously, I don't sit around and pretend like I was the greatest college football player in the world. I was a mediocre, mid-major college football player at Ball State University. I did that and I talk about what an idiot I was at Ball State, what a headache I was for the coaches, how it took me until adulthood to figure out, like, man, these coaches were right. I was an idiot. Anyway, so if you're looking for a real honest discussion in the morning to help you understand and interpret the sports world, we'll be giving it to you starting Monday. Looking forward to seeing you there. The show's only on YouTube, only on Blaze TV. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on Monday. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a moment of Fearless.